It's Selection Sunday, and the Tar Heels are right back where they should be at the top of the bracket. What's it going to take to reach NCAA Tournament glory?
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Selection Sunday, March 17th, 2024. Welcome in to this live bracket reaction edition of the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shade, and you're joining us at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. Special shout out to all of you everydayers joining us. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to have a full show on Monday, but just wanted to do 10 or 15 minutes or so on the bracket reveal and North Carolina's path, what that's going to look like, and just see what that's going to mean for the Tar Heels. And so we'll still do a full show on Monday as normal, but just wanted to go ahead and make sure to have some reaction kind of in real time with this. So if you haven't heard, North Carolina is the number 1 seed in the West region, and that's great news. That's what we expected, and we want to talk about that. And in fact, that is the first place I want to go. The Tar Heels, we knew, let me actually start here. We knew who 3 of the 1 seeds would be. It would be UConn, Houston, and Purdue in some order. We knew that they would be UConn in the East, Purdue in the Midwest, and Houston in the South, because those regions, the South is going to be in Dallas, the Midwest is going to be in Detroit, and the East is going to be up in Boston. And so it just worked out where we had these top 3 teams, and there were geographical locations that made sense for each of them to be paired with. And so that just makes a lot of sense. And so the question was, who would be that 4th seed? But we also knew that that 4th 1 seed would be out in the West, regardless of who it was. Well, as you look at the resumes, as you look at what everyone has done, I think you and I, Tar Heels folks, felt very strongly that it should be North Carolina to be that 4th number 1 seed. And I think a lot of other people did as well. But you just didn't know, right? And so there were some entities starting to talk about, like, okay, maybe Iowa State is going to be that 4th 1 seed, feeling like Tennessee and Arizona were kind of out of the mix after their losses in the conference tournaments, and that Marquette had been out of the mix for a while. But here's the good news. When the bracket comes out, immediately we pretty much knew that it was going to be North Carolina, but it's kind of funny. The thing that I expected is that because I thought Tennessee and Arizona were further off of that 1 seed line, that they go in order of revealing the brackets, the top overall seed in their region and on down. So I thought, well, Carolina's going to be the 4th number 1 seed, so we probably won't find out till that 4th bracket. But then it hit me, no, wait a second. As soon as we see either North Carolina or Iowa State as a 2 seed in another region, we're going to know who that 4th 1 seed is. So Iowa State came out as the number 2 seed in that first region along with UConn. And so at that point, I thought, great news, Carolina is going to be the 4th number 1, and it turned out to be true. But here's what's interesting. When you see the actual order of the top 16 teams, Iowa State not only was not the top number 2 seed, they were the 4th number 2 seed. They were 8th overall on the seed list, on the S curve. North Carolina was number 4. And then from 5 to 8, it was Tennessee, Arizona, Marquette, and then Iowa State. So to everyone who was trying to push this narrative on Saturday night after Iowa State won the Big 12 championship and North Carolina lost the ACC championship, let me remind you that this is about an entire body of work. This is about a team in North Carolina that went out and put together an insane non-conference schedule, while Iowa State was like bottom 11 nationally with their non-conference schedule and other things, but that's a big part of it. And so, yeah, North Carolina is that 4th number 1. And not only was Iowa State not, they were the lowest of the 2 seeds in the rankings. So I hope that seeing Carolina back at the top of the list, or at the top of the heap as a 1 seed, remove some of the of Saturday night that happened. You know what I mean? It's just, I know everyone was kind of hurting and down after that, but just as another reminder, that one loss does not erase an entire season's worth of incredible work, and that's what Carolina did. So that's great news there, and I hope we're all encouraged by that. Secondly, I had been saying this all along, and I said in our live postcast after the loss to NC State, yes, Carolina will still be the 1 seed. That's great news. And as we start actually looking at the bracket now, what I'm going to do is pull up the West region so we can all see what North Carolina's region is going to look like there. So if you haven't seen it yet, for those of you watching, I'm obviously going to put this up on audio later as well. But for those of you watching, you see where North Carolina is as the 1 seed. If you're unfamiliar with how this works, you see that there are two teams on the 16 seed line, both Howard and Wagner. And you might be wondering, is that a school called Howard Wagner? No. What happens is, because it's a 64 team bracket, but 68 teams are selected, the 4 lowest automatic qualifiers, they face off against each other in the first 4, which takes place in Dayton on Tuesday night and Wednesday night. We'll have 2 games Tuesday, 2 games Wednesday. So it's the 4 lowest automatic qualifiers, meaning there are 32 conferences in Division 1. Each of those has 1 automatic qualifier that wins their conference tournament. The 4 lowest ranked of those teams are these teams, Howard, Wagner, and 2 others. And then the 4 lowest at-large teams also face off. So that's like Virginia, Colorado State, and somebody else who I'm forgetting in real time right now. And so Carolina will play the winner of that game. I would imagine, since Carolina is going to be playing on Thursday, that Howard Wagner game is going to be Tuesday night. They're not going to force them to turn around from Dayton and fly to Charlotte in one day. And so that's the deal there. So looking on through this bracket a little bit, Howard and Wagner. Now, look, I know that it's now happened twice where a 1 seed has lost to a 16, both last year with Purdue losing to Fairleigh Dickinson, and then back in 2018 with Virginia losing to UMBC. I know it's happened twice. It is not going to happen to North Carolina this year. I know everything is that until it's not a thing, but hear me, that's going to happen. Okay. Looking ahead to the 8-9 game then that would be played on Saturday would be either Mississippi State or Michigan State. Look, those are both tough matchups. Again, we're going to unpack this all more fully on Monday's show. Right now, I'm just reacting kind of in real time to it. Mississippi State poses a tough threat inside. They've got Tolu Smith, who's a big guy. We saw that a couple years ago when Carolina was the 2 seed and lost to Texas A&M, the 7 seed, who had some bulk inside. So that would be something to contend with. And then obviously, as you look ahead after that, you've got Alabama as the 4, St. Mary's as the 5. Alabama is elite offensively, but poor defensively. St. Mary's won both the regular season and West Coast Conference tournament over Gonzaga this year, and so they're very good. They've got a sophomore named Aiden Mahaney that's an absolute dude. They've also got an inside big man, Mitchell Saxon, who's really good. So Carolina would have some toughness to contend with there in the Sweet 16 if they're fortunate enough to get there. And then you see the teams in the bottom half: Clemson against New Mexico, Baylor against Colgate, Dayton against Nevada, and Arizona against Long Beach State. And that's the next place I want to go. I know people are going to say, well, of course the committee did this, the Caleb Love and Carolina of it all. Let's not forget Steve Robinson as well as an assistant coach at Arizona now. Of course the committee did this, but here's what I want to tell you. There are so many bracketing principles in place that the committee just simply cannot manufacture these matchups. It makes sense. Like, it was just kind of determined to happen this way because North Carolina, as I said earlier, as the 4th number 1 seed, the other 3 had their natural region. So it made sense to place Carolina in the West region. And then with the 2 seeds, they don't get preference like the 1 seeds do, but they do kind of move them around geographically. And so Arizona, as the 2nd highest 2 seed, The highest 2 seed was Tennessee, whom it doesn't make sense for them geographically to be in the West. So, they are, where did they go? Midwest. I can't remember right now in real time. Tennessee is the 2. I'm looking back at the bracket. Forgive me. Zoom in. Tennessee is the 2 in the Midwest. Yeah. And so that's where they put them in the Detroit bracket. And so then Arizona, as the next highest 2 seed, it makes sense to keep them home in the West, which is going to be in Los Angeles. So that's just kind of how that worked out. So any conspiracy theorists, I promise you, it's not a thing that they manufactured. Now, of course, it's great and it's fun for the sport that this happens, but you don't even know that this matchup is going to take place. Either team could lose before we get to the Elite Eight. So just keep all that in mind. The same thing with all the like hand wringing over, oh no, Carolina's going to be the 2 in the East region with UConn. Well, you don't know if both teams are going to get there. So that's just where we're at. All right. So North Carolina, Caleb Love, Steve Robinson, obviously that would be a lot of fun. We want to talk about some more things here with our bracket reveal. Again, we're just doing some live reactions here. Want to get to some of that, what I think might be a path for the Tar Heels. But before we get there, I need to tell you that this live bracket reaction is brought to you by our good friends at FanDuel. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick on who's going to win it all. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. Isaac Shade here with you. We're reacting in real time to North Carolina's bracket placement in the NCAA Tournament 2024. The Tar Heels are the 1 seed in the West. By the way, I'd like to take some questions if you've got them, some observations. So see, we got a few things in there, but if anyone else wants to hop in and drop some, I'll take a few of those before we get out of here as well. Overall, by the way, the ACC has 5 teams in. I know there was a lot of, who all is going to get in from the ACC? Obviously, it helps have one more with NC State winning, but there are 4 ACC teams that got in. Obviously, North Carolina and Duke, and then Clemson is the 6th seed in Carolina's bracket, but also Virginia made it in as well. They're in one of the play-in games. They're playing Colorado State, and that will be in the Midwest bracket. And so if they should win, they would go into the bracket with Texas as the 7th seed. So we'll keep an eye out on that. But as for North Carolina, let's just get back to talking about this a little bit. And I want to go ahead and bring in one of the user comments. And this one's from Dale Christianer, which is funny because I have a friend named Dale Christian. And it says, I knew they'd have us in. No, that's the wrong one. We'll get back to Dale's in a minute. Steven Heels. What's up, Steven? Steven's part of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord community. Says, I think we have the toughest 8-9 game. Other than that, the road to the Elite 8 is very, very doable. And as you look at it, the other 8-9 games, you got FAU Northwestern in the East region with UConn. By the way, the committee did UConn no favors. We'll talk about that more on Monday's show. The 8-9 in the South Regional is Nebraska and Texas A&M. The 8-9 in the Midwest is Utah State and TCU. And then obviously, as we've said, ours is Mississippi State and Michigan State. Now, look, Michigan State has not been typical Michigan State this year, but they do have some talent. They are still coached by who? Tom Izzo, who can do it all. And so just keep this in mind, that is Tom Izzo with Mississippi State, as we said a little bit ago. And let me pull up Derek Thiessen's comment as we do so. It says Mississippi State would be a difficult matchup because of their physical play style. But that being said, we play our best game. We win comfortably, in my opinion. And yeah, that's true. This is a tough game, but Mississippi State is not as good a team as North Carolina. They have been in the SEC, which is obviously a good conference and it's strong. But if North Carolina, unlike, I didn't think the Tar Heels played their usual aggressiveness and attacking on Saturday night against NC State. I expect them to get back to that this coming weekend. Hopefully they can take care of either Howard or Wagner with some relative ease on Thursday, and then allow themselves on Saturday to just be ready to go against either Mississippi State or Michigan State. So we'll see that there. But moving on down the bracket to the bottom half, because we didn't look at that very much. There's Clemson and New Mexico. Don't sleep on New Mexico. You know, they've just had a great run through the Mountain West tournament, which got in 6 teams, I believe the Mountain West did, which is pretty remarkable for them. But they're taking on Clemson. We know how good this Clemson team can be, but we also know how jabberwocky this Clemson team can be, how up and down. And so that's something to watch as well. And then we've got Baylor and Colgate. We obviously know Baylor's and Carolina's history together in the recent NCAA tournament. They're in Fort Worth in the 2022 season. And so that'll be interesting. They're a phenomenal offensive team, great 3-point shooting team, but their defense lacks. Colgate is the champion out of the Patriot League, and they are phenomenal. Won both the regular season and conference tournament. I think they won the regular season by like 6 games, if I remember correctly. Then you've got Dayton and Nevada. Nevada's another one of the Mountain West schools who's had a great year. Dayton has been really up and down. I'm not all that concerned about them. In fact, in my quick bracket that I had to put out for Locked On, I actually took Nevada over Dayton there. And so there's that. And then obviously Arizona and Long Beach State. Long Beach State, if you haven't heard, fired their coach on Monday this past week, Don Monson, who was at Gonzaga before Mark Few. And then they went on to win the conference tournament. So there you go. That's the team that's playing Arizona. So really interesting stuff there. Again, I don't want to be too long on this because we'll do a full show on Monday, but do want to take another couple observations or questions from the live chat. Eddie Real says, who would you most want to see in a hypothetical national championship game, either because it would be the most fun game to watch or just another desirable reason? This is a great question from Eddie, who actually says beneath that, we've been discussing it in the Discord, so I wanted to hear your live take, which another plug for our Discord. If you're not part of it, the link for that's in the show notes, as, by the way, is the link for the Locked On Tar Heels Tournament Bracket Challenge set up by our very own Emily Von Pocky. Emily, thank you for doing that. Come join us in there as well. Eddie, let me give you, I want to answer this 2 ways. One that would both be like North Carolina as one of the participants, and the other without it being North Carolina as one of the participants. So obviously, if it's North Carolina, then the 2 regions on the other side are the South and the Midwest. Some of the logical candidates, you know, in the South, you've got Houston as the 1, Marquette as the 2, Kentucky as the 3, and Duke as the 4. Out of that region, what's interesting to me, in my quick bracket that I just did for Locked On, Houston was the team I picked to come out of that side of the bracket. And unfortunately, I hate to say this, I had them beating North Carolina in the national championship game. And here's why. Because Houston's guards, I just saw that defense in person on Friday night and Saturday. They are insane. It is so good. And I'm nervous for how they would bother and bottle up both Elliott and RJ. Would be an issue. They are relentless. So we'll have to see what would happen there. But Kentucky would be another one. I'd like to get another crack at them, Eddie. And so, and a lot of people are going to pick them coming out of the South. I'm just going to encourage you all to be, I know they're going to be a trendy pick out of the South. Kentucky's defense is so bad that they will not make the Final Four. I'm just telling you right now. At last check, they were outside. Let's see where their defense is right now at KenPom. You ready for this? Kentucky, their defense is 108. They will not make the Final Four. I'm just telling you once again right now. Looking then at the Midwest, you got Purdue as the 1, Tennessee as the 2. The 3 then is Creighton, and the 4 is Kansas. Kansas, I don't expect to make it. They're banged up. I wouldn't mind facing Tennessee again. It'd be kind of like the 2009 season, you know, where Carolina blitzed Michigan State in the ACC Big Ten Challenge, and then again in the national championship game. But man, Dalton Connect is an absolute dude. I think it would be fun to see Purdue. You know, a couple weeks ago, Coach Rob and I unpacked that, a hypothetical Carolina-Purdue matchup. So you can go back and listen or watch that. I wouldn't mind Creighton getting out of there and coming to the national championship game. Why? We owe them for that Ethan Wragge business. So that would be a lot of fun. A hypothetical championship game, then the other part of that wouldn't involve Carolina. I don't know who I'd want to see come out. I guess probably just, I mean, this is going to be real chalky, but I really would like to see UConn and Houston if Carolina's not in it, just because, all due respect to Purdue, you know, those three teams have been the teams at the top of the heap all season. But I just think, like, I've been putting Purdue as the number one team based on resume, but Houston and UConn are the top two teams to me in terms of eye test. And so I would love to see that as a hypothetical national championship. So there you go. That's our live bracket reaction. Gonna go and get ready to record our full Monday show, but just wanted to talk some about Carolina's draw. I don't know about you guys. I like it. I'll talk more about the Caleb Love in Arizona of it all, but I'll just tell you right now, North Carolina can beat Arizona. So keep that in mind as you get ready for all the madness that is coming this week. All right, guys, great to be together. Thanks so much for joining me. Want to remind you that it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again on Monday, but until then, peace.